All right, so today I'm going to be talking about Cool World, and when I first saw this movie, I just kind of didn't get it. I thought, okay, I just watched like an hour and a half of this half cartoon, half real life mishmash, and I didn't get it. But I watched it again, and I realized I totally get this movie, and not only do I get this movie, but I have lived this experience. And I feel like that's kind of a funny thing when you come into awareness. It's just like a whole new world of different tastes and different, it's like you're a completely different person. So I decided to do this. I saw this movie a little bit ago when I felt this way, but I decided to do this one now because I just made a video sort of talking about high school and being delusional in high school, and really that was not the half of what was happening with me. So I'm kind of making this video coming off of the one I just made, which is Suzuka. But anyway, sorry, I get like really, I'm like really fidgety because like, I don't know, I had like a gnarly day, but but and this topic sucks, like it really sucks because it's kind of like a more serious topic, but every time, oh, there's my dog. Every time I kind of turn the camera on, it's like I just get like all that shit, you know, kind of like flies out the window. And I'm like, what? Like, what was I saying? But, okay, so getting right into this video before I chicken out. But basically, to start, you have Brad Pitt, and his name is Frank in the movie, but I will be calling him Brad Pitt, if that's all right. Because I feel like it's obviously just Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt in every single movie. So you have Brad Pitt, and he, you know, off the bat, just there's like a traumatizing experience. He takes his mom and they go on this motorcycle ride, and he's so excited to just like show her his new bike, and they crash and she falls off and she dies, and Brad is just like freaking the fuck out. Oh wow, I'm really exhausted. I think I'm gonna like keep filming because I think it's like just like mental blocks at like talking about this. I just had like the gnarliest breakdown earlier today over something happening in my life like right now, and just having like no support. And sometimes when things get so bad, like it's like you either have to traumatize yourself out of the trauma, and I didn't want to do that today because that makes it worse. But so I just thought of like filming, but clearly this wasn't a good idea. But like I just like to keep shit real, so I'm just gonna like hopefully get on board. I have a cup of tea, and tea makes me feel better, but hopefully just like get on board for this shit now that I've like gotten this truth out of the way. Yeah, so video starting 4 minutes in, but to start, we're shifting, okay, so I'm like shifting gears here so I can like fully kind of like get into the mood of this, and I need to get a new fucking camera because I just like can't swing with this phone shit. But this movie starts out, are we good? Okay, we're good. Okay. Worst video in the history of my life. Worst video in the history of my life. Okay. This video starts out with the knowledge that Brad Pitt is returning from war. So this video kind of starts out with the knowledge that like this guy's not okay. But the movie kind of goes on, and like, you know, right off the bat, he gets in a motorcycle accident with his mom. He hits the ground off the motorcycle, and he thinks that he's back in the war. So they're kind of trying to tell you here that this person, this isn't like a stable person. I think anybody flying off a motorcycle and going what he went through would be traumatized. But because he's already coming out of a traumatizing situation, because he already was emotionally disturbed, his brain couldn't like do this on top of that. So he basically breaks from reality, and he goes into a complete alternate universe. And you know, to sort of explain this, because I feel like this kind of thing is really hard to understand, but a lot more common than I think people think. I'm going to basically share my high school story, which is why I was like having a, you know, tripping out earlier, because I just felt like it was too, shit was just, I don't, you know, I don't care about that anymore. It's just like the situation I'm in now is just like too heavy, I don't, etc. But, so when I started high school, I was coming from a school where there were only 40 kids in my grade. And I thought, because I was like, you know, I was one of the ones that was like, I had a ton of friends. I got invited everywhere. And I thought, while there was a sense of like security of like, I thought I knew who I was, I didn't know a damn thing. You know, it was just one of those things where I was coming from like an innocent little baby school that I thought, because I was straight up with kids who were just so off the wall. I mean, just, you know, kids who had gone there since kindergarten, and I was like one of them. And it was kind of like a little family. I didn't even realize that I was coming from like a little family, and I really just took it for granted. I was constantly feeling like I wanted to get into the world. I was constantly feeling like no one sees me, no one appreciates me, no one knows me. There were maybe like, oh God, like 5 okay guys, and all of them liked the same exact girl. And this, you know, looking back as an adult, like, obviously this is like a small school thing. There was nothing wrong with me, but my brain translated this as like, I'm just so undesirable. And I had major body dysmorphia, the worst I've ever had, probably. I did in elementary school, but junior high like peaked it. And I had this like illusion of like going into high school and having like all my dreams come true. And I would like watch these movies like an idiot, and I think, oh, this is what it's like. This is what, you know, this is what it's like. This, you know, I hated my parents. I felt like they were stifling me. I felt like they were forcing me into this place that like I knew that Christian school was not the way the rest of the world worked, and it pissed me off that I was there, because I felt like this isn't fair that I'm like trapped here while everyone else gets to do the normal thing. I was like obsessed with like normal. I just want to be normal. I just want a boyfriend. And you know, the weird thing is I had dudes at a very young age, like outside school. I knew how to meet guys. I knew how to pick up on a guy. I had dates. Like, looking back, I cannot believe my mindset already in the game of things at like 13, 14 years old, and thinking that I was just like, these things didn't surface, but it was like I've hated myself so much and thought that I was just so ugly, because everyone at my school, no one noticed me like that, because you know, we'd all grown up together, and no one noticed me like that. And that was like a massive just dent on my identity, that I just, it was a lot bigger, I think, than at the time. All I knew is I can't be here anymore, because I want normal, but I didn't associate that with that. It was that I didn't feel normal deep down, and I think blaming the school was like how I like got by. So high school starts, and off the bat, I got hit on, and I think that's normal. And I very much recognize that this was like for sex, but without knowing the like that word, or without like I wasn't dumb. Literally got drunk, and I didn't believe in getting drunk, and I didn't participate in this kind of thing. But I thought, okay, I'll try this like to experiment. Got drunk with a bunch of older dudes, could read in the dude's face while I was buzzed exactly what he thought, and I straight turned him down. Like, fuck this. This is so stupid, you know? So I was in this mindset. I was aware of like basic things, but I was not aware of the bigger picture of high school and like kind of what that meant. And I was shell shocked, just thinking that I was gonna be noticed. I wasn't. Thinking that people were gonna be interested in me. No one was interested in me. Thinking that my outfits were gonna be cool because I was forced to wear uniforms, so it's like I could finally like wear outfits. I could finally be myself. It was too much. Girls wore jeans, Converse, and like plain tops, and I felt like, oh, you know, I was voted best dressed, which is so funny because we were fucking uniform, but like, oh no, best all around style. I was voted best all around style, and I go into the real world, and I think, oh, I got it down pat. I looked like a clown. Like I mean, I was cute, but I didn't know. Girls wanted nothing to do with me. Guys wanted nothing to do with me unless it was to get in my pants. I had a teacher kind of pull me aside and say like, you should not let guys touch you like that. Because I had this one dude who was like always hitting on my butt, you know, that kind of stuff. And I loved it because you're 14, 15 and you think that that's, you know. And I was just irate at this teacher, like, how dare you try to come in my social life? Like, get the fuck out of here, you know. So I remember crying in the bathroom, and this was like not, I never, ever, ever, ever would have thought that this was like traumatic for me. And you know, and my family was not that kind of family. We didn't talk. No one talked to me. Nobody thought of me. So I didn't think of me. But there was one person who noticed me, and I'll call him Max. And this experience sort of took me off guard, I guess, because it was like very, very pointed interest in me. We sat next to each other in math, and it was like I was like walking into that class, and it was just like eyes on me. And I didn't think anything of this, except for all of a sudden, I think it was like, I don't know if it was 2 weeks in, but it was like all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like I have like a relationship with him. Like he's interested in me. We talk every single class. The girl behind him was even like, I kid you not, she word for word, why do you guys talk so much? Like this is the kind of shit like from females that I was like dealing with. And he for the first time in my life, it was like somebody was really interested in me, I guess. And looking back, the kinds of things that he said to me, like he would always be like, why are you so nice? Like, how come you're so nice? And I didn't really understand at the time like what he was saying, but looking back, it was like, why are you so innocent, is what he was trying to, like he couldn't put his finger on me. And I think it was by maybe a couple months in, it struck me that I thought of him 24/7, and it struck me that I was like in love with him. And I'm going to kind of go back into cool world because I developed like an imaginary, like, all of a sudden high school, it was like a shutdown. It was like a switch for the real world turned off. And my world was suddenly me and Max. And I would sit in class and it was the same thing. No one cared to notice me. No, sitting by just in complete by myself, everyone having their place in the world but me, everyone having someone to talk to but me. But I was with Max, so it was okay. And I, at the time, translated this to, I just must really, really like him. I just must really, really like him. But it was like, people would say stuff and Max would think that was funny. So then like I would think that was funny. Or like when I started finally kind of making friends and we were kind of going all around, Max would be there and not in like him, in movies that's like the person, like I just saw the movie Tully and she freaking invented her and she's like sitting next to her watching everything. It was like that, but it wasn't like that. And to me it was like, well, I like him. I just like really like him. So going over to Cool World, Brad Pitt, when he has this trauma with the motorcycle, an old man comes to him from a comic book that I'm assuming that he reads regularly. And him and this old man start having a conversation, this cartoon old man. And the old man is like, I need you to come with me, kind of like you're special, and I can't believe you crossed over into this world. No one crosses over into this world. And Brad Pitt's like, I'm not special. I'm like a murderer. And other comic book creations kind of come like, like these big monsters come to like take him away and like put him in jail. And the old man vouches for him. He's like, no, you're not a monster. You're a soldier. You were a good soldier. And I'm going to put you in charge of Cool World. And what's happening here is this Brad Pitt can't in that moment undo what happened with his mom. He can't fix it. And he can't exist with this not fixed. So his mind created something to fix it by giving him an emotional connection. And because he needed an immediate emotional connection to get through it. Just like in high school, I needed an immediate emotional connection to keep surviving this world. And my immediate emotional connection was Max. And I know that Max was real life. And I'm going to get to that in a second because it's a little more complicated than that. So this Whiskers is the cartoon old man. Brad Pitt needed an immediate emotional connection to tell him it was okay. And he needed this event to make sense immediately for him to keep surviving because he couldn't keep going with this stack that had accumulated. Because whatever he was dealing with in the war was traumatic, comes home, there's another trauma. This man can no longer survive as himself in this world without a helper. So basically, he invents a helper in the form of this old man. And this old man, I call this, oh God, what did I call it? I think I call it the emotional support. So the old man basically gives him tasks to do in Cool World because Brad Pitt can't do this world anymore. And so he goes into Cool World because he can't hang in this world anymore. And he dives completely into the fantasy world. But in order for him to do this, he has to feel like he has to focus on this world as like kind of like a goal. Like the old man gives him a job in this world. Oh, you were a soldier. You're good at this, this, and this. I'm going to make you lead detective of this world because Brad's main problem is now feeling incompetent because he comes home and he kills his fucking mom. I mean, it's an accident. Oh, my light. My light turned off, Lord have mercy. My light turned off, merciful Lord. I try to make these videos like shorter, but like freaking, I'm just such a wreck. Like, there we go. I'm just like such a mess that it's just like not happening right now. It's just not happening right now. I'm like aiming to get these to like 15 minutes. And I don't know if it's because I like of the chronic fatigue syndrome, just like scrambling my brain. But my brain is like so bad. It's so bad. So the thing about this delusion is to keep Brad okay about what happened. He has to believe he had to make a universe that this universe makes his world make sense. Because the lie, when you have a trauma, there's a lie attached to it. And the lie for me was that I was like unimportant, uninteresting, undesirable, all of this shit. And so to face that I was being rejected meant to accept this. To me, there was no break in that. And that is absolutely not true. But when you're dealing with trauma, it's like there's all of these different beliefs that are attached to it. So that's why your brain has to quick fix it, even if it's delusion. And that's why people believe the delusion. Brad Pitt believes he is a detective. He believes that he's helping people in this world. He believes that he's a good detective. And his emotional support is the one who's telling him it's okay. You know, you don't have to go back to that world. This world is, this world needs you. And Brad can't immediately process that you didn't kill your mom. You're not like incompetent as a son. You're not like bad. You're not like, he can't process these things on the spot. So he needs this delusion to, it's real, because the real truth is that it was a mistake, and that humans make mistakes, and that humans aren't perfect. And it wasn't Brad, it was a drunk driver. Brad was just driving the car. It wasn't even his fault. He wanted his mom to go because he loved his mom and he wanted to experience that with her. And it wasn't his fault, but he can't process all those things on the spot. So he basically invented his emotional support to tell him it's okay, you know, and you can do these other things to make and the point is that Brad Pitt, to avert the lie, the delusion has to be big to keep the lie at bay. And this is why delusions at their root are never lies, because Brad Pitt is capable. He was a good soldier. He is a good son. But because the lie from the trauma is so big, he had to create an even bigger truth of like, to prove that I'm, you know, these things, I have to be the main law enforcement of Cool World. And in the real world, this isn't happening. And so his mind basically created a world for this to happen for him. So that's kind of like part one of this video, is why delusions happen and why they are real. Me and Mark being together 24/7 to me, me and Max, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Me and him being together 24/7 was real to me, because if Max thought I was interesting, then all these people were missing out. You know, if Max thought I was funny, because that was one of the things he thought, he would always tell me how funny I was. And so if Max thought I was funny, it's like, it made everything okay. You know, if Max thought I was cute, because I knew he thought I was cute, it's like all of these things fixed the bigger trauma, but the problem is what my brain was doing was making him into like a god, and was making him into kind of how like the old man is the emotional support. Max in my universe didn't ended up not matching Max outside my universe. Because what ended up sort of happening was I started kind of feeling like, why doesn't Max ever want to hang out with me outside this? Like, you know, why is this just like a classroom thing? And he'd walk me to lunch here and there. And that was like really sweet, but I also got this vibe from his friends just looking at me sideways, or, you know, some of the things they said to me. It was like an inkling of, is he like telling his friends that I'm like obsessed with him? Like, which I was, but like, is he like telling his friends that I'm like so in love with him? And it's like, it was like a shadow of like, is this what's happening? You know? And this was confirmed by an older girl in the class who said to me one day, she was like, dude, this guy's an asshole, that like, he gets off on you liking him. He's telling everyone that you're like, you know, so obsessed with him. Turn him down. Like, this guy's a loser. And it like shocked me, like, oh, this is, you know, like what's happening. So this is what led me into him and I to like go into an all-out war, basically, by our senior year. I was ignoring him insanely as if he didn't exist, and he was insanely trying to get my attention by all of the things that he did, and it turned into like an all-out war. But to me, I was like in denial, because if Max didn't want me, it meant that initial lie was true. So my brain didn't allow reality. My brain didn't allow me to see Max as Max. It forced him to be the savior. So I think I was trying to get into part 2 a little bit ago, and like my light turned off, but like part 2 is what I'm going to refer to as the bridge. Every delusional world has a bridge, because the delusion has to be real. So for me, my bridge was Max. Max was not the one going around everywhere with me. Max was not the one constantly approving of me in situations so that I felt loved. And, you know, Max, while that wasn't Max, my bridge was Max, because I real life was in love with Max, because me and Max had a real life connection, and we had a real life, like, I guess just like a likeness where I authentically fell for him. And I authentically, even if he was denying me, it was like, I think he was embarrassed of me, and that's okay. You know, I was probably really embarrassing for him, because he, you know, he had his group of friends and he didn't want me hanging around. I was like not that. What he was to me, I was not to him socially. So the bridge in my case was real, and that me and Max had a real, he was the first person that I fell in love with, like as a girl, the first person I connected with and got those feelings for, and like wanted to marry him, you know, like, but in a lot of cases, I think just from going around online, and there's this one story that I'm going to include, because this girl, like, I couldn't even believe her delusion. But there's a delusion has to have what I call the bridge into reality to like keep it going. And in Brad Pitt's case, his bridge is the man who writes the comic book. So his bridge is basically the comic book, but he has like a mental connection to this man, where in the movie, this man ends up also like going into Cool World. And I think that as it would have it, the movie also make this man, we are introduced to the comic guy when he's in prison, and he has a major fantasy relationship going on with a doodle. That, like, a doodle is what they call like the characters in his comic. And this doodle that he's drawn, her name is Holly, and he's in a full-blown romantic relationship with Holly. So it's interesting because this man, who is the creator of Cool World, which is Brad's fantasy world, also has a delusional relationship going on. And you find out later that this man's wife cheated on him, and it was like this severe thing. So Holly works for him because he doesn't want to have a real life thing going on again. So he's in a relationship with Holly, her name is Holly Wood, like Would, because she's just like a fast living female, super sexual, super gorgeous, looks like Marilyn Monroe. And he created her and turns down real life women to go home to Holly. And I totally understand that because that was my high school experience. I was in a very real relationship with Max. In my head, I would need to take like 3 to 4 hours a day were like devoted to this. But I legitimately just associated it with him real life. And I just thought, oh, this is just liking someone a lot. This is just like when you're in love with somebody, this is because I never been through anything like this before. And I already had a massive daydreaming problem. But it had never revolved around one person, and it had never been where like I took this person everywhere with me. But going back to the comic book writer is the bridge. Brad needs him to be relevant because this is the man who keeps expanding on Brad's world. And him being, this is an example of a bridge. And for me, Max was my bridge. But I'm talking about the bridge because there is such thing as a negative bridge. In this girl's video I watched that I'll put down below, her friend basically was feeding her, she's schizophrenic, and her friend knew that and was like feeding her all of these things about Inuyasha, this anime character, being in love with her. And the girl started a delusion about Inuyasha, and to keep that delusion like going, she would continue to return to her friend to get fed for more information, because the delusion has to keep going. It has to be real, and you need like ideas for it to keep it going. And so that's an example of like a negative bridge. So there's all kinds of different bridges. Max was a real life bridge. It was a real life feeling and connection, and that sort of muddled the fantasy element, because I was real life in love with him. So that was normal. Or with Brad Pitt, his fantasy element is muddled because he feels like he has a connection with this comic book writer, to where he includes him into his own fantasies, because the comic book writer is a real life man. And so somehow Brad Pitt's mind is like making sense of that. Well, Cool World must be real. My job must be real, because someone is like, this is very, very crazy, and the movie doesn't get into it this deep, but if this were real life, Brad Pitt would probably get to the point of assuming that this man was like writing for him, and that this man was coming up for things for him. Because that's just like that's how severe trauma affects you, is your brain does somersaults to make something real. And then in the case with the girl whose friend was feeding her the delusion, that's another example of a bridge. And I would call that person a handler, honestly. This girl meant to delude her friend, and her friend was sick, and that's just what happened. She just continued to feed her, just to watch her have this fantasy. And I think just because this is just sick, but I'm not, this is just something that happens, I think. And so this is another just example of a bridge. And in my mind, I call this a negative bridge. And I think I would call Max like a positive bridge, because you start at the bridge to undo the delusion. But you can't just, so I don't want this video to get too much longer, but going into college, I was faced with a massive problem because my brain, I never sorted the trauma out with my shift into high school. And then compounding that, I never sorted the Max's denial of me. I never sorted that out. I just lived in a fantasy land where he was accepting me. And I had all these overblown scenarios where he was accepting me. And that's how I countered his denial of me, because I was in denial that this person who I was in love with, oh, it's dark, was denying me. And I was faced with, high school is over and I'm still in love with him. And then I was faced with, college is starting. I want to meet someone new. I'm no longer in love with Max, but this isn't stopping. And something sort of pushed me into, I'll share this last bit because at the end of the movie, Brad Pitt gives up on reality entirely. And this is, oh my God, my back. Oh my gosh. Ow. Ow, Lord have mercy. Another 40-minute video. Another 40-minute video. I need to get a camera so I don't have to see myself while I'm recording, because it's really awkward. But basically, I started kind of, after the first 2 years of high school, I was still really delusional, I guess I'll say, as far as I couldn't face, something happened on grad night 2 between me and him. I experienced a full-blown dissociative switch. He emotionally threatened me really bad, doing nothing, but I think just the heat of that night, the last night I'd see him, and it was just too much for me. And so I fully separated. I have no memory of any of this. I just know that now I know I fully became a toddler baby. And I never spoke to him after that. So I didn't know what happened. I just knew that I passed out and Max was gone, and I saw him again, from a distance, it was fucked. But you don't have support back then. I had no one to talk. I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that it was over. I knew that it was over, because I tried to call him after that, and I was so humiliated at what happened that I made up some story, and he knew that he, after that point, was done as well. We'd fought all senior year. It was awful. And so coming off of that and having 2 years of pain at being separated from him, just pain, I started sort of a real life, okay, this is a not okay person to have started something with, and not by society standards, but if my family knew, this would be really scandalous. So in denial that me and this person, that there was something there. This ended up shifting me from Max into sort of the real world. And I remember feeling kind of shocked, like, oh, like this is what a relationship's supposed to be like. And I think that because this guy treated me like really well, and we were not dating. This is absolutely not what this was, because both of us had known each other our entire lives, and this would have just been, I remember me being really careful, because at this point in my life, I was like running amok. And with him, like, it was like a no land. It was like a no land. And then when he met someone who I knew was right for him, I completely dropped him, and I like started my second semester at college, and something happened. Something after that, being not rejected by him, but sort of experiencing that and then having it taken. I remember feeling something in me kind of like break, like, I don't know if this was the thought, but it was like, I don't care about college. I don't care about any of these people. Like, because it was sort of a similar thing to high school, where I kind of realized, like, my school was 75% Greek, 75% female. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. There was a lot of girls. And I just I tried to do the whole sorority thing. And this was actually me kind of rejecting all of them, as far as like, oh, this is what high school was. And, come to think, I think my college experience helped me process high school, where I sort of was like, I'm like not into any of this. I'm into like real. I'm into like, I don't care who said what. I don't care about y'all's parties that like end at like midnight and there's like no dudes here. It just was, I'm sure some people had like a grand old time, but like it just wasn't for me. And I completely broke away from all those ideals and like became an adult. But the issue was, I think, sorry, I ranted there a little bit. The issue was, after I had this like experience, something in me kind of broke where he was gone. College wasn't, I was isolated because I didn't care about school. Name, I don't know. I'll call him, I can't call him anything because I just like don't want to give anything away. But like sorry, I'm having like mental hangups right now. But like something in me just like, to put it short, some girl came up when I went back to my second semester. Some girl came up to me who'd been in my sorority, and I didn't recognize her. So it was a full-on mental dissociation from the real world. And in my aloneness, I full dove back into Max, because that was still sort of like spinning. And it was like something registered, like there's nothing here for me. And that's not true, but that's what registered. And for an entire semester year, I completely I was not here. I was not here. And none of my friends were here. My one friend was living with a boyfriend, and it was like a bad situation. And then my other best friend was in college in fucking Iowa. And my other best friend was at USC. And like, I was just completely by myself and Max. And I was like resigned to it. Like, so I ended up getting out because I ended up meeting somebody else. But this was my reality for, I remember driving long distances, because to me, movement gets me out of here and into somewhere else. I think because it's like hypnosis. And I remember just driving like really long distances, with like the rue of like, oh, I need work. I need to get a job. I need to get a job. And like just driving long distances to be with Max. And like, and I knew in my heart that I was not in love with him anymore, but it was like I had given up on reality, and I just dove into the delusion that trauma had created. And the thing is I really fucked myself, because years later, because this went away completely when I met the second person that I fell in love with, I guess I'll say, in my life. This, in my current stress, has come back out, like almost to beckon me like back. And this was very alarming. And this is what I'm currently working on unraveling. I'm finally going back to that trauma of high school and being rejected, and finally going back to Max's own rejection of me, and just, oh my God, my neck. But anyway, Cool World ends with Brad diving into his delusion and avoiding reality for the rest of his life. And the writer does the same. Even when Holly comes to life, and she's awful because the fantasy girl never exists. Because when Holly comes to life, she just wants to bone. That's all she wants to do. That's all she's good for. Oh my God, I'm like in night vision and I can see myself. And I'll keep it dark because, like, let's get serious here. But even in realizing that Holly is not who she is in his fantasy, like when she comes out into the real world, she wants every man. It's like, because this is how this kind of girl is, like, you know, one-dimensional. He still goes with her. He still leaves reality. And this movie was so heavy. I couldn't even handle it. I had to make a video on it, and it's time for me to go.